how's it going? I'm Isla and I'd like to give you an update on Cromarty Seascape, which is our project focusing on native oysters and seagrasses if you haven't heard about it before. You'll notice that I'm not filming this next to the sea. I'm actually in my local woods and the sun is already going down. We're entering the depths of Scottish winter now. So yeah, what have we been up to recently? Yesterday we were actually out with our friends at Murray Ocean Community helping out on a seagrass survey, oh my goodness, slipper limpet survey. I'm too used to saying seagrass survey. Slipper limpets are a marine invasive non-native species that were first recorded in the project area, I believe it was last year. So the community has been teaming up and going out and trying to assess how far they've spread, like where they're established. And the thinking behind it is that if we get a handle on where they are now, and if we intervene early enough, then we might be able to stop their spread. I'm not sure if it's possible to eradicate them, but yeah, perhaps folk listening might know more on that, so please drop something in the comments if you do. Welcome to my kitchen / lab space for the evening. So we've got 3 different species here. Some nice specimens. On the right we've got horse mussels. So you can see they have sometimes it's a really nice purpley tinge to their shell. Really cool. I actually found these washed up after a storm in a place nearby called Nairn. So it's sad that they're not forming a lovely reef anymore, but yeah, beautiful. Really cool bivalves. And another bivalve that you'll be sick of me talking about by now is the native oysters. So these are shells that were found in the project area. You can see this one is absolutely huge. This is one of the biggest ones I've ever found. There you go. Yeah, so these shells will probably be, or most likely, from reefs that were in the project area at some point. You can see them scattered around the majority of intertidal areas that we go, to be honest. And then here, the one that everyone is talking about, the slipper limpet. So these guys are not bivalves, they are gastropods, so they're marine snails, and they're pretty distinct, as you can see. There's not much on UK beaches that you can confuse them with. I think we've got 3 native species of limpet and they look quite different. So our native species have they don't have this teardrop kind of shape. They have ridges on their shell, and the common limpet is kind of conical in shape. So yeah, that's what they look like. So if you're in an area where American slipper limpets are not native, then please record them, please remove them. And we've been using iRecord, so we've been advised by Nature Scott to use iRecord. And I might post some resources in the description of the video as well, just if people want to read more. Slipper limpets can have a really negative impact on native oyster reefs. They actually sort of smother the sediment and excrete pseudofeces, which makes sediments more silty and quite anoxic, and creates less than ideal conditions in which to restore native oyster beds, basically. It's not thought that slipper limpets were the reason for the declines of native oyster beds throughout Europe, but it certainly could impede native oyster reef restoration. So the concern is that so they've not been recorded in the Cromarty Firth where we're going to be restoring native oysters yet, but where they have been recorded is just to the south in the Inverness Firth, in places like Fortrose and Petty Bay. So hopefully they don't cross over into the Cromarty Firth, but that is something that we'll monitor going forward. But yeah, so basically they create really anoxic sediments, and when you're restoring native oysters, you're really looking for habitats that are maybe a bit more pebbly and have a higher shell content, so less than ideal. And on the native oyster nursery that we're establishing in the Cromarty Firth, we've We received all of the permissions that we needed to be able to install it, but yeah, another hurdle has appeared. I have to admit that installing the native oyster nursery and the process of getting everything in place for it has been really challenging. But we've now discovered that in order for it to be in the optimum place, we're going to need to move it about 55 metres north. So now I'm going through the process of checking all of our permissions and what we need to change in order to be able to install it. So now thinking that the earliest we'll be installing it will be spring next year. And as always, I'll keep you updated on it. Now I'm going to hand over to Josie and Francis, who are going to give you updates on some research that's been going on and also some challenges we've been encountering with our small trial seagrass nurseries. So we've had some problems with the seagrass nursery in recent weeks. Francis, do you want to run us through quickly what's going on?
Yeah, well, we set up the first tank back in probably May time, put some seagrass in it. It was absolutely brilliant, it was doing its own thing. So we scaled it up and planted out some seeds in some trays in some sediment. Came back a month later and the water was really anoxic. So what we've done here is we've cleaned the tanks out again. We've taken all that leaves, and we think that some of the issue is coming from the trees behind us that are dropping their leaves and going into this tank. So we've put some covers on it, stirred around the water, and we'll come back more regularly to make sure that the water stays fresher. And hopefully that these seeds are still okay. Seagrass seeds do germinate in anoxic conditions, so we're still hopeful that we'll get some germination next spring, and then we can see how well they grow.
Nice. And the ones in your garden in the wee tanks are doing grand.
Oh, they're brilliant. Yeah, still growing well. Obviously the intertidal stuff is dying off at the moment, but they're very happy. So we've still learning from the experience, but that's the whole thing about growing seagrass, is you've just got to learn from your mistakes and try different things. So hopefully these covers will stop the leaves falling in, and then we won't have wasted all that time.
Hello, Josie here with Isla and Francis, and I thought I would just leave them for a minute to come and tell you guys about the results from some research that was carried out earlier in the year. So some of you will remember master student Tomas. He came up to join the team earlier in the summer to carry out research for his master's project, and he was exploring the relationship between local communities and coastal restoration in the area. So yeah, we were definitely really interested by this and happy to support his research up here. Some of the things that he was looking into finding out were the kind of influence that people felt in the area that they had over the management of the coast, and how this has maybe changed over the last decade or so. And yeah, he was also interested to hear what people felt were the benefits that would come from coastal restoration in the area. So lots of interesting results, and I'll just touch on a few now that we found particularly interesting. So first of all, a nice one to start with, just over 91% of respondents felt that the health of the environment was extremely significant for the health of the society, the well-being of society. So yeah, it was really nice to hear that in the area there's definitely some understanding of that intrinsic link between nature and our health, and hopefully kind of indicates that there's definitely motivation in the area to kind of see an improvement in the health of our ecosystems here. So that was a nice one to start with. Yeah, and when asked about to rate in order of importance what people felt were the benefits that would come from restoration, obviously the improvement of environmental health came up on top, but then after that it was a lot around community involvement. So people felt like restoration would bring an increase in community pride and also an increase in community participation in stuff that's happening around here. And people also felt that it would be really important that there would be an increased opportunities for communities to get involved with community activities, with community access to knowledge. So yeah, we were really happy to hear all of that, because we have got some really nice stuff coming up next year that we are planning over winter, all around getting communities out in the coastline actively involved in the restoration that's happening here. So yeah, we were really happy to hear that that's something that people felt was important. We totally agree, and yeah, we look forward to kind of seeing how that will go next year. Another really interesting thing that came back, which was possibly a bit surprising to us. Tomas found that there was a very strong idea from people that the restoration of nature is incompatible with economic prosperity. So people in the area who responded to the surveys didn't particularly feel that by restoring nature it would bring financial benefits to communities. So yeah, we were definitely going to have a think about this and how we can increase the awareness in the area that is actually possible. For example, through jobs, not just for ecologists and biologists in restoration, but restoration rewilding definitely brings opportunities for a variety of jobs. But also, yeah, kind of restoring nature itself. So, for example, seagrass, which we are working on, healthy seagrass meadows can reduce coastal erosion, help reduce coastal erosion, which obviously will have financial benefits to our communities as well. So yeah, it was really interesting having these conversations with Tomas, and I think quite often we have an idea on what we think the community feel and how much influence they have, and can base our work around that. But this kind of data, this information that Tomas has gathered is so valuable, because actually we're hearing directly from the communities on what their views are, what their perspectives are, and how empowered they feel. So yeah, this winter we are going to have some time to think about it all and kind of strategize and decide what our focuses are going to be for next year. But definitely putting community at the front of it as a community-led project, and we're really excited to update you on how that goes next year.
Right, using these final rays of light to have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with you guys now. I think it's fair to say that working in ecological restoration and rewilding has its challenges. We're often, we are working in degraded environments that are subject to an array of different pressures. Our work is limited sometimes by various permissions, even though we see why they're there, that need to be in place to enable us to do the work. But that's another consideration, and I think like the sort of bureaucratic framework isn't really built for rewilding or restoration just yet. Now I know there are regulatory bodies that are doing their best to catch up, but there's still a ways to go. So yeah, things like installing the native oyster nursery, which is just the first step in a long journey of restoring native oyster reefs to the Cromarty Firth. Yeah, has been pretty tricky, but I'm not complaining, and we wouldn't be doing these jobs unless we really wanted to try and enact positive change. And the only reason why we were able to do this is because of our Mossy Earth members. So I'd like to thank all of our Mossy Earth members, and if you'd like to become a member, then please visit mossy.earth. I'll see you guys next time, and I think we'll have an update on our seagrass survey results from this year pretty soon. Cheers, bye bye.